Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Yudalid Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the top at the new Mishnah. We know when it comes to burning the chametz, bir chametz midi araisa is the beginning of the 7th hour after Chatzos. Midi Rabbanan they were makdim 1 hour to be requiring the burning of the chametz the beginning of the 6th hour. What happens when one wants to then burn chametz that is truma tahara, and he also has chametz that is truma tameya? Can he burn them together? What's the issue? Well, he's going to then render the truma that is tahara, and he's going to come in contact with the truma that is tameya, becoming tamei. And there's a requirement from the Torah not to then allow truma tahara to become tamei. Before we get into the body of the Mishnah, let's talk about the levels, the stages, the levels of Tuma that there are. The greatest, the highest level of Tuma is Avi Avos HaTuma. That's a dead body. One comes in contact with a dead body, it becomes an Av HaTuma. If something comes in contact with a dead body, either an Adam, a Kli, Oichel or Mashke, it renders into a Rishon Letuma. A Rishon Letuma is Metama Oichel Umashke into a Sheni Letuma. A Sheni Letuma, something comes in contact with that, then it renders the Oichel Umashke that is Truma or Kochim into a Shlishi, but not Chulin. Chulin does not become a Shlishi. And the Shlishi of Truma or Kochim Tameim renders Kochim into a Revi'ah Letuma, but not Chulin certainly, and not even Truma. Let's see the Mishnah. The Mishnah states, Rabbi Chanina Segan HaKohanim Omer. Rabbi Chanina was the vice Kohen Gadol. That means to say that he was also in charge of all of the Kohanim, assisting the Kohen Gadol in all of the Avodah. If something happened to the Kohen Gadol, then he would then become the one in place of that Kohen Gadol. He's the Tana, and he testifies the following: Umimehem shel Kohanim. The days of the Kohanim in their Avodah, Lo nimnu melisroif es habosar shenitma bevlad hatuma ima bosar shenitma be'av hatuma. He says that in the times of all of the avodah, the kohanim are not concerned about burning that meat of kachim that was rendered a shlishi letuma to burning it together with that kachim that it was rendered a rishon letuma. Here he talks about that became in contact with a vlad hatuma. Here the vlad hatuma is referring to a sheni letuma, and therefore that meat which comes in contact with that vlad hatuma is a shlishi, and that which came in contact with the av hatuma is a rishon. So he's saying over here that it is going to be bumped up by coming in contact with the rishon to be a sheni, and therefore the chacham were not concerned about that. Afal bisham moisifin tuma al tumasoi. Even they're adding tuma on its tuma. So now we can prove that the words in the Mishnah of bevlad hatuma, which really is a generic term to mean, it doesn't mean avatuma, but rather a tolda of a tuma. Normally, however, it refers to the rishon of a tuma, but over here, it specifically refers to a sheni letuma. And we can prove that that's so because the meat that came in contact with that vlad hatuma became a shlishi. Only that would then be something that would make sense in our Mishnah because it states in Rabbi Chanina's testimony that Afal Pishe Moisifin Tuma al Tumasoi. That means the Shlishi that came in contact with the Rishon became a Sheni. If it was Vlada Tuma Kipshutoi, that means it was a Rishon Letuma that came in contact with the meat of the Kachim, making it into a Sheni. Then the fact that the Sheni comes in contact with another Rishon would not be Moisif Tuma al Tumaso. So in short, what Rabbi Chanina is teaching us is that we are not concerned to bump up meat of kachim from a shlishi letuma to a sheni letuma. Rabbi Akiva added, and he said the following: we're not even concerned about bumping up tuma from a shlishi into a rishon as follows. Mimeyem shel kohanim lo nimneu melahadlik es hashemen shenifsal betvul yoim bener shenitma betmei meis. Rabbi Akiva adds and he says in regards to the burning of shemen that he came in contact with a tvul yoim. A tvul yoim is either a kli or a person that was nitbal in the mikvah, but is not yet tahor because it's waiting for nightfall, and therefore it has the status of a sheni letuma. So Rabbi Akiva says, if shemen came in contact with that tvul yom, it becomes a shlishi letuma. Nonetheless, when it comes in contact with a ner, shenitma b'tamei meis. Now a ner is unique. Here we're talking about a ner that is mateches, that is metal, and the din of a metal that comes in contact with a tamei meis, it's an exceptional rule that it remains the same status as an av hatuma. So therefore, this shemen that is a shlishi letuma coming in contact with this ner, which is an av hatuma, would make it into a rishon letuma. So here Rabbi Akiva is moisif and says, not only are they not concerned about being moisif tuma al tumoso for making a shlishi into a sheni, but says Rabbi Akiva, afal pisha moisifim tuma al tumoso, making a shlishi into a rishon. The Mishnah goes on to say, Omar Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir then applies this to the inyan of chametz, le'inyanenu. Midivrayim lomadnu, from their words we learn, shesarfin truma tahara, im hatmeya bepesach. You can take truma that is chametz, that is tahara, and you can burn it together with your truma that is tmeya. Now we said when you're burning the chametz, it's the zman that's midirabanan, is the beginning of the 6th hour. Midi araisa, it really is not the zman of the biur yet. And so Rabbi Akiva is Rabbi Meir rather is mechadesh from the words that we saw before. Now he's saying that since Rabbi Chanina, Sgana Kehanim, did not specify what he's talking about, and therefore we can assume that he's talking about even mashke that is metame, whereby mashke that is metame, according to the shita of Rabbi Meir, is midirabanan. So we can see from the words of Rabbi Chanina, Skana Kohanim, that which renders a tuma dirabanan from the mashke, from there we can learn that you can take truma that is tahara and burn it with truma temeya in the beginning of the 6th hour, which is an inyan that is dirabanan, a beer that is dirabanan. Because midi araisa, again, this man is not until after chatzois. So this is how Rabbi Meir is learning. Omar Rabbi Yosi argues on Rabbi Meir and says, because Rabbi Yosi, the Shitoso holds that no, when it comes to mashke, it's metame midi araisa, whereby you wouldn't have a proof that you can go ahead and burn truma temeya with truma tahara in the beginning of the 6th hour, which is the Rabbanon. Omar Rabbi Yosi as follows: Eina hi amida. This is not a proof from the words of Rav Chananya ben Sagana Kohanim. When it comes to truma that is tahara and truma that is tameya, both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua agree that you cannot burn them together. They must be burned separately. Again, because the Torah requires that you do not metame truma tahara. So therefore, you have to keep them separately even when burning them. Al manechleku, what are they arguing about? They're only arguing about when you have a safek truma that is tamei or tahar, that you can burn with your truma tameya. But vadai truma tahara you cannot. As follows: Al manechleku al hatluya val hatmeya. When you have tluya, which is in uncertainty of tmeya and tahara, that safek truma you can burn with your truma temeya. Rabbi Eliezer oimer tesarif zula atzv zula atzv. On that, Rabbi Eliezer is machmir and says you have to burn them separately. On that, Rabbi Yeshua is mekel and says Rabbi Yeshua oimer shteim ba'achas. You can take the truma teluya, the suffix truma, and burn it together with the truma temeya. But they both agree that you cannot take truma tahara and burn it together with truma tameya, because you'll then render the truma tahara to become tamei. So therefore, Rabbi Yosi is arguing on Rabbi Meir and says that you cannot go ahead and burn your chametz that is truma tameya together with your chametz that is truma tahara. Ask the Gemara right away, Michti, let us now see. Bosa shenitma bevlada tuma, my have. The Gemara is going back to analyze the words that we had explained in the Mishnah. When it says vlad hatuma, normally the lashon of the Mishnayis in vlad hatuma refers to the rishon of tuma. So ask the Gemara, Basa shenitma bevlad hatuma my have. a basar, in this case kachim, that becomes in contact with vlad tuma, what does it become? So the Gemara answers sheni, because classical vlad tuma is a rishon, so the basar will become a sheni. Kisorif le bahadi basar shenitma be'avat tuma mayhave. When you burn basar that is nitma be'avat tuma, what does it become? Sheni, because basar became nitma be'avat tuma as a rishon. So therefore, that basar becomes a sheni, that becomes nitma with the rishon. And therefore, sheni v'sheni, who says the Gemara, my mostiv lo tuma al tumasa ika. Since it's a sheni, come in contact with a sheni, where do we see that you're being mostiv tuma al tumasa? You just have basar that is sheni, come in contact and being burned with basar, which is a sheni. Answers the Gemara Amar of Yehuda, hacha bevlad uvlad askinon. Dahave le shlishi. Here we're talking about bivlad, vlad. Dahainu, it's a sheni, and that's how we explain the Mishnah. The sheni is coming in contact with basar, making it into a shlishi. So then we have the shlishi bumping up to a sheni when it comes in contact, being burned with the rishon. V'ksavar shlishi mutar la'asoisa sheni, and that's the chiddush of Chanina Sgana Kaihanim, that they were not concerned about burning meat of kachim that is a shlishi together with meat of kachim that is a rishon, even though the shlishi will become a sheni. Ask the Gemara, v'ho ein oichel metama oichel, but we have a klal that oichel is not metama other oichel. The Tanya, if you're relearning a brisa, yochel yehe oichel metama oichel. I might think, says the brisa, that you could have oichel that's tamei to metama other oichel. Tamu loimer v'chiyutan mayim al zera v'nofa menivlosam al love tamehu. That it says when water has fallen on a zera, on seed, that means it's machshir to become makabel tuma, and then a nevela, a dead sheretz falls on it, let's say, then it renders that seed to be tamehu. That's what the Mishnah says. Who the Bryce is medayik. That's what the Torah says. The Torah says who that he is tameh. So the Bryce saw who tameh vein oisik yotze tameh. The seed becomes tameh, but it doesn't make that which is similar to it into something that's tameh. So therefore, oichel is not metame oichel. So how can you say over here that in our Mishnah that is yes metame oichel? Answers the Gemara hanicha. The Gemara works it out. Hanicha la'abai da amar lo shanu ela bechulin aba betrum vekachim oisek yotze boy. Abai says, when do we say oichel is not metame oichel? That's only when it comes to chulin. But oichel is yes metame oichel when it comes to truma and kachim. Ulrav ade bar ava mishmei de Rav nami da amar lo shanu ela chulin vetruma. They are not metama other oichel. Aval bekachim oise kiyotze b'shapir. But by kachim, it is metama other kachim, other oichel. El Ravina mishmei de Rava. But according to Ravina, the name of Rava, the Omar mikro malei dibra kosuv, the pasuk is not talking about any distinction. Loishna chulin v'loishna truma v'loishna kachim. In all situations, oichel is not metama oichel. So even in our Mishnah, which is talking about kachim, still it should not be able to metame other kachim, other oichel. Eino oisek yotze boy. Ma'ika lemeimar. What are you going to say? How are you going to learn our Mishnah? Answers the Gemara, hacha b'mayaskin and the ika mashkin. Bahadi boser de kametame machmas mashkin. Here we're talking about that there was mashkin that was on top of the basar, and that was what was metame the other basar, and therefore it bumped up the shlishi letuma into a sheni letuma, according to Chanina Sgana Kohanim. Yehochi asked the Gemara, that's not meduyak in the lashon of the Mishnah. Hi im habasar shenitma ba'avatuma, that which it states in the Mishnah, with it comes in contact the meat with the basar of the avatuma. The shlish comes in contact with the basar of that became in contact with the avatuma, which was contact with a rishon, making into a sheni. It should say, Ima basar umashkin miboile. If indeed it becomes tameh through the mashkin, then the Mishnah should state that befeirush. It's to say, it comes in contact with the basar and the mashkin. And it doesn't do that. Ella, says the Gemara, you're right. Nihi de ein oichel metama oichel midi araisa. It's true. Oichel is not metama other oichel min ha-Torah. Aval midrabanan mihu metame. Midrabanan, it is metame.